Taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ford SuperDuty. This is obviously the fully digital cluster screen, and in this video you're going to learn everything you need to know about all of these buttons. So let's start off with the first one, and that's that the steering wheel inside of the ride is going to be manual telescoping for the most part. So just down by your left knee there's a release. It's telescoping, so you can go in, out, up and down to find that perfect position for you. Once you find it, click it in order to lock it back into place. And so many different stocks and buttons. So let's start off on the left-hand side. So you could toggle your windshield wipers on, and then obviously just going up and down this way is going to be for your blinkers. You can flash your high beams out, and then there's also an available auto mode. So right now I'm in the auto headlamp mode, but down by your left knee there are a series of switches, so you can figure out what's going on with your lamps. When you're in the auto mode, there's an auto headlamp mode. And what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it's going to turn them off before turning them right back on again. But if you wanted to permanently lock your high beams out, you just have to go into the available headlamp mode. You can then push away to toggle them on, pull towards you in order to turn them back off again. But you're going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time. You saw there, so you've got your wipers available as an option, so different levels available. If you push the button on the tip of the left stick, that's going to be for your windshield wiper fluid. Along the right-hand side is going to be your gear selector. So you've got your park, reverse, neutral, drive, and there is a dedicated manual mode too. So when you're in the manual mode, you could then use the plus or minus on the shifter in order to be able to change out to different gears. Now, manual mode here, as well as manual mode for paddle shifters and then a hand shifter, all work along the same principles. So if you want a better explanation of how these actually work, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on how that's done. But like I said, in a nutshell, simple, straightforward. You can push plus in order to increase the gear, push the minus button in order to decrease your gear. So you're going to do that to rely on engine braking, or if you wanted to be able to shoot up your RPMs in order to pass a car a little bit faster, you can also push down that way. So many different buttons. The ones along the left-hand side here, you've got cruise control, and this is just your typical regular cruise. There is the option for the adaptive cruise control system too. So with regular cruise, you just push the button there in order to toggle cruise control on. You then push in order to set your speed that way. You could increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time, or you could push and hold up or down when you've got the adaptive cruise control system to increase or decrease to the nearest 5 or 0. And then you could turn cruise on or off. So you can hit the brake to pause your speed, you can hit the middle button there to pause your speed, and push up to resume your previously set speed. When you've got the traditional cruise control, it's old school. So if the car in front of you slows down, your truck will not brake. With the adaptive cruise control, if they slow down, your truck will also slow down. If they change lanes, you change lanes, it'll pick you back up to your previously set speed. And then with the adaptive cruise, you'd also have a button here for a gap adjustment. So it's how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you. From there, you've also got your plus minus, and that's going to be for your volume. There's a voice command prompt, and you'd be able to do things like change songs, radio stations. You can navigate using your voice. If your phone was hooked up for your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you could do a long button push and hold.
Search for your vehicle
In order to be able to pull up your Siri or your Google Assistant. All the buttons along the right-hand side. So you've got your button here for answering or hanging up on a phone call. You can change between all of your available presets. If you push and hold, that acts as a little seek button. So you could seek out that way, but honestly, your best bet is just use the voice command prompt to change your radio stations that way. But if you want to walk through on the infotainment and setting up presets, things like that, you'll find a walkthrough down in the description of this video. Then you've got a few other buttons here, and these are going to be to move through the cluster screen. Inside of the cluster screen, you can see what main gear you're in, so park, reverse, neutral, drive. If you were in the manual mode, you'd also be able to see 1 through 10, what gear you're in that way. Along the very bottom, you can see your current direction that you're facing, your current odometer, your speed, and then you've also got your current fuel mileage till empty. Now, this is the calming screen in the truck. So you've got your buttons along the right-hand side. You can push back in order to change up your My View, back again to get to this calming view. The button along the far right side for your menu, you can push that again in order to get to a few other options. So if we click on My View for a second, that's going to bring you back to this view. Now, if we scroll down, that's where you get into more of a traditional setup. So you can move between all of your available options. You've got your trip counters, your basic calming view, which if you give it a second, that just pulls everything off of the screen, giving you that basic view. And dropping down, if you wanted to reset your trip counter, all you do is push and hold the OK button in the middle, and a few seconds in, that's going to reset everything back to 0. Back down, you've got your fuel economy. your tire pressure, diesel gauges. So obviously this is the diesel version. If you were in the gas engine, that diesel screen wouldn't be there. And then you can configure your My View. So if you go ahead, you could then figure out which other options are here. Now these ones are all grayed out because we've hit the max number of pages. So if we deselect, you'll see all of these other options become available. So if you'd have different gauges you want, like if you prefer to have your pitch and roll there, and maybe you don't care about the calming view, you can add in a number of different pages. So let's go ahead and put the diesel measurements too. And then if we hop back, we've now got different screens. So if you just wanted a blank screen, so rather than that calming view, you can get this blank screen, dropping down into your trip counters, your fuel economy, your diesel measurements now, so your turbo boost, etc. And then your vehicle pitch and roll. So useful if you're going off-road. Back down to configuring your My View. So you've got the flexibility of adjusting that out if you'd like. If you tap back, you can then jump into individual subscreens where you've got your trip 1 versus 2 and your fuel economy. You've got different gauges available. So if you wanted to drop into your diesel measurements, aux gauges, diesel gauges, things like that. Off-road pages are available there too for your compass, your off-road status, your vehicle pitch and roll. You got some towing information, so you can see your trailer information, your light status, your towing status. So if you're actively towing a trailer, it can give you all of the necessary info. So again, you'll see a few of these things in a few different spots, but it's nice that you can kind of dive deeper into each individual screen. Engine information's there, tire pressure, and then you've got navigation. So factory navigation is available as an option here, but if we look at, hold on, point of interest icons, I don't know if this is going to work right now. Yeah, so it's not working as of right now because we don't have the connected services for navigation built in. So navigation through the screen here, it does need an active data connection through Ford Pass in order for it to work. You can subscribe to different plans. If you were just hooked up through Android or iPhone devices inside of the infotainment system, navigation from your phone would not be viewable here. But if you had an active data plan through Ford Pass, you would be able to do navigation settings there. If your phone was connected, you could make phone calls that way. You can look at audio. So if you wanted to go AM, FM, Sirius XM, it's essentially all of your available audio sources. So if your phone was connected, that would show up. If USB audio was there, that would show up. But you can click through in order to get to different audio settings too. And moving back into vehicle maintenance. So if you're doing oil changes yourself, you could reset. You've got your exhaust filter and then your engine filter too. And back into settings, so gauges, you've got a series of gauges along the very top of the screen. So you can configure them, so you can show them or not. So the two on the outside, those are always fixed into place. You can't adjust those, but the two in the middle, you could say whether or not they're there or not. You can swap those positions. You can also customize it. So it's oil pressure right now for that gauge, but if you wanted to maybe have the turbo boost or the DEF level, you could change it out. So you can customize the middle too, but you can't customize the outside options. And then your temp gauge, do you want detailed or just a basic standard view? Actually, detailed would probably be useful from there. And then speed in miles. So if you're going cross-border, obviously if this is a Canadian spec vehicle, if it was US, it would be the opposite way. And back to the main screen from there. So you've got a little bit of flexibility with the screen. I do personally like the blank screen there, but I mean, obviously, as you saw earlier, you've got your different trip views. You can go a calming view if you wanted that, just simplified view. But if you shift in between different drive modes, that's also going to change up the look of the screen a little bit. So if we hop into an off-road mode, watch this. So it's going to shift us into 4x4. Look at that. I mean, that looks mean. I'd probably want to be in off-road mode the majority of the time just because of that screen. But as you move in between different screens, it's going to do different things. So if we look at the tow haul mode or even the eco mode, that's going to give you a slightly different look. So you can see there, it's gone green instead. So there are different options, different looks that are available. You're going to be in normal mode the majority of the time, obviously, unless you're heavy towing. And then you've also got your slippery mode. So if you are in slippery, snowy conditions, it's going to put you into your 4 high. And then as you move between different modes, it's going to customize the look of the screen a tiny little bit. And then it's going to determine which drive mode that you're in. But I know that's a lot of information. That's everything that you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ford SuperDuty.